Hey, fellow note investor. Are you looking to learn the basics of note investing so you can get started? However, you don't want to spend a few hundreds or thousands of dollars and hours online on some training program? Have you thought about attending a notes conference? However, you don't want to spend the money or the time away from your family. Well, we have a tremendous beginners video series of 20 different topics, with each video being less than 15 minutes. This means each video is less fluff and direct to the content. Visit www.jkpholdings.com/beginner-series to learn more. Again, www.jkpholdings.com/beginner-series. When I learned about Celsius, and we left at 43 degrees Fahrenheit, and I came back or got called Tuesday morning, and my neighbor says, listen, it's been 90 degrees and everything's burning. Plants are burning right now in 4 days. Unbelievable heat streak that came through. So it's been a whirlwind. We got back, opened the pool all of a sudden, all ready for a nice 45-degree weekend. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's what happens when you live in the Northeast.
Yeah.
You get this kind of thing.
So what kind of temperatures you have? Are you guys
Currently, like yesterday and today, it cooled off big time. On Wednesday, it was nice, warm, sunny, little humid, not too bad. Like 30 Celsius, so like upper 80s.
okay?
And now today it's like 10 degrees right now, so it's like maybe 60, 55, 60 somewhere in there. So
Wow.
it cooled off a ton. But by middle of next week, we're back up.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because, this weather thing goes crazy for us. And, I think we talked earlier, monitoring the weather from the south is different from monitoring weather from the north. We had a problem years ago where people weren't thinking about winter storms or whatnot. And I don't think about hurricanes, right? So when we have property in the south, I don't think about boarding them up. I say, hey, listen, that's Florida. And it's, oh crap, we got to make sure we get on top of that. I mean, same with you guys, like, you could be having a really cold weekend and it's burning up there. It's just unbelievable.
So it's interesting, we talk about weather, but it's like you say, it's kind of significant because I need to know. For example, I just had last weekend, I've got a couple of properties in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and last year they had two hurricanes come through a month apart, and then just last weekend they had more heavy rain and flooding. So
Oh my God.
just you got to kind of keep your ear to the ground and see what's going on all over the country.
Yeah. So that comes almost full circle what we want to discuss today. And guys, we're going to keep it light. I'm just trying to get back in normal stuff. And we got a lot of things going on, and it's a holiday weekend for the United States and all that stuff. And one of our guests who are going to join us today just couldn't make it because of the holiday weekend. So we want to talk about something light, but really kind of hit home on some things here. I think for a lot of people, knowing what to get into, what not to get into. And Cody Cox, if you didn't see the message, wish happy birthday, my man, in the chat. So, Cody, always a good man. Thanks, Cody. So, yes, happy birthday, Nathan, by the way, everyone. Happy birthday, all that good stuff.
That was yesterday, yeah.
Yeah. So, belated birthday, everyone. So, how was your birthday, my man? Did you guys do anything special?
It was really good, actually. I gave it, this is one of the perks of working for yourself. So I went for a nice run in the morning. Actually, I took my girls to school, which my wife usually does, but I'm like, I'll do it. So I took them to school, came home, went for a run. Just kind of had I didn't really even get into the office till around noon. And then I had given myself a light schedule because I'm like, it's my birthday. So just kind of took it easy. It was fun. I had a good time.
How were you able to disconnect and relax?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Pretty good. So it was, there's always something going on, and you can drive yourself crazy. But
your brain doesn't shut off. It's just, I think like, oh crap, you do shut off for a little while, you start freaking out.
Yeah.
Which is good, right? I'm glad to see you do that, man. We all need to do that. When I was on vacation, I was able to unplug, weirdly enough, panicking when I came back to the computer, like
Yeah.
100 and some odd emails and whatever it was, and like, holy crap. And that's like 2 days later.
Yeah.
Thankfully, a team around me and my, people who are taking over for me kind of helped out.
Good.
Talking about that kind of stuff, we want to make our business easier for us. And putting the people around us that make it easier is key.
Yeah.
Even if you have one deal or 100 deals or 300 deals, getting a team around you, and that's not just internally, that's external as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So share a little bit, we want to dive into our deals, and I'm going to bring up a question that someone asked me yesterday we want to address, but share something about, we're talking offline about what is our, our favorite deals. And I want to make sure we're clear when these aren't our most profitable deals. They may be, but there's a reason why they're our favorites. What was about it that made it so easy to get into? So
yeah, and it's really interesting when after you've been working at this a little bit, you'll get a tape, and I can go through a tape much easier and faster now than I used to be able to. And part of that is just being able to look at the numbers. A big part of that, one of my first things that I filter is states. So for example, for me, New York and New Jersey, they're off my
Yep.
tape immediately, and I don't even look at it because I'm just not interested. No matter what, if somebody came and said, listen, I've got this really good deal and this is why, and they can make a case for it, I'd listen. I don't know that I'd necessarily go for it, but I'll listen.
Yeah.
But if I just get a tape, forget it. Those ones are off the list right off the top.
And for those who are not familiar, why is that off the list for you?
So part of it had to do with rumors and just hearing from other people's experience, and then part of it's from my own experience. So I had heard that New York was terrible, long foreclosures, this and that, and so I thought, okay, no, I'm not interested. I'm not going to do that. A couple of years ago, I had two loans that came up, both in New York, but not in New York City. One is in just outside of Niagara Falls. And the other one's nearby. It's not too far from Niagara. So different part of the state, not New York City, nowhere close to the boroughs. And they were right at the end of foreclosure, both of them. So I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
That sounds good. That sounds about right. Wouldn't you know it, one of them declared bankruptcy the day before, 2 days before the sale. So that got off the rails, and we had to deal with that. The other one, close to the end of foreclosure in any other state, meant I still had a year and a half to go, which I found out the hard way, and we had to kind of deal with it and take it as it comes. But so my experience is, you know what, it's just not worth it for me.
Yeah.
I've got now, I went through a couple of different attorneys just on those two loans. So I didn't have an attorney in New York. I do now, a guy that I can work with and trust and know that he'll do a good job. But getting started somewhere new is difficult. It's not impossible, but it's a consideration. So I'll look at a place and I know, okay, so I've already got my attorney set up. I've got a good realtor in the neighborhood. I know the area. Maybe I've been to the city, and I know what side of town to look at, that kind of thing. And that will help kind of direct my decision. Maybe I've done another property in that city or another loan, and so I just have a better idea of just kind of the local feel and what happens there, and that will definitely guide my decision.
And from I got horror stories of people selling REOs in New York as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we've had a couple in New York, but they're performing, so we haven't had that issue. Anything we did not perform, we actually sold off. Luckily, someone really wanted in New York, so we were able to sell off a small pool of assets to somebody.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to take the REO because of the issue of selling it. It's a headache compared to a lot of places. You mentioned having your agents, right? Having an agent and having a good agent are completely different worlds.
Oh yeah.
And when you get a hold of someone that's good, you kind of want to stay with them. And the only way to stay with them is to buy assets near them.
Exactly.
So you may buy a little higher than you want, but your team is there to really trust and know what's going on.
Yeah, definitely.
So share a good one. Where was a situation where you bought an asset that maybe the numbers weren't perfect? You know, you don't need to give me the numbers, but tell me about the deal.
So I've got a couple here. I mean, I'm looking through my list. I'm not sure what you do, Dave, but I keep a list of, I've got kind of a main spreadsheet. And with that, I've got current loans, a different tab for just kind of rough figures on what I'm kind of expecting to happen. Any monthly payments that I'm collecting. And then further down the line there, I've got one that it's called done owned. So ones that I have had and now have sold. And then beside that is done figures. So it's that same rough figures that I had, but now it's the real numbers.
Oh, okay.
I scroll through that and there's a couple hundred on there, which is awesome to see, and it's really cool. But it's when you go back and you're like, I remember that one. Oh yeah, that one. Oh yeah.
And you put comments on there, right? You put comments what you didn't like about it, just so you recall it.
Yeah, right near the end, there's how it was sold. We actually every year, my wife and I'll go through this and we'll separate it out. So it's organized by year, and then within that year, I'll say, okay, so these many, they're highlighted, a light purple, and those ones are the REOs that we sold, and then the green ones are the performing loans that we sold, payoffs, ones that sold at auction, things like that. And so we'll have them kind of separated out so we can see at a glance, what's working, what's not, what's our best returns, and which are our worst returns, and where did the surprises come in, and all that kind of thing. So just real easy, quick reference.
Yeah, we have something similar. We got to the point where we were able to check a drop down, and we choose it, and it moved those assets to a different tab, so that we'll see any assets we sold on one tab, and it automatically populates based on a drop down. So every asset we see is in a master list, right? And we can see what it is, and go to that tab and say, okay, what do we like about that one? Any assets that we saw will move over as well, right? Anything we reviewed. So we can go back and say, okay, we like this asset, but something happened here. And if it's an area we like, we can revisit it at any time and go, hey, listen, seller, do you still have it? And that's key, right? In our mastermind, we're talking about, don't always quit on a deal that you lost a bid on. Go back to the seller, re-offer your offer a month later and see if the asset's still available.
Yeah, it happens all the time where deals fall out. Sometimes they'll be looking at another buyer will be looking at a larger pool. My experience with larger pool purchases is they fall out a lot. It's much easier to close a deal on 5 or 10 notes than it is on 50 or 100.
Yep.
So those ones will fall out all the time. So yeah, that's a good point. Go back and check it.
Yeah.
So I'll share one here that this going back, we purchased this one in 2016. And I like this one because for a few reasons. It paid out well, which is great. That's always happy. This was earlier on in things, and so I was kind of getting the hang of foreclosure processes in different states and things. And this one happens to be in San Antonio, Texas. So it was a good, just a good experience of going through the process of a foreclosure in Texas. And we talk about it being this fast and everything. And I don't know about you, Dave, but I've never had one actually complete in 2 months flat. I know that's what everyone talks about. I've never experienced that. It's never been that fast. I've had it happen in 3 or 4 months, but
yes,
but I've never had it in 2.
No, I think 68 days is my record.
And that's, in theory, you could do it in 2, but you're having to hit the dates exactly right.
And buying exactly right and filing exactly right. It's because of the dates and when they go to auction.
Yeah, auctions are once a month. So just that alone, if you miss the deadline, and you've got to put it in for the auction, it's 2 or 3 weeks in advance. So it's got to line up perfectly to get that 2 months. It's not impossible, but I've never had that go that fast. But anyway, I'll share this one because it's in San Antonio. And first of all, I like San Antonio. It's a great city, and it's always done well for me. What I like about this deal, what really came of it was, A, like I say, I made money. And then number 2 is I got a great realtor out of this one. And we talk about realtors versus good realtors. And I've got a great realtor in San Antonio. And this is back in 2016, and we're still working together now. We just had a deal. In fact, little tip on how do you keep a realtor happy. So I had a foreclosure that we were working on for the whole last year. And because of the moratorium, it kept getting bumped and bumped and bumped and bumped. And my realtor was kind of looking out after the house and making sure that everything was okay and it's not getting vandalized and that sort of thing. So he's putting work and time into this, expecting that he's going to list the property for sale. I did not expect, there was not a lot of equity on this. So I really didn't expect auction, that somebody would buy it at auction.
Yeah.
And then of course somebody did, which is great for me, but not so great for my realtor, because all that time and effort that he put into it then is all for nothing.
Yeah.
So I let him know right away, and I said, hey, I'm really sorry. I did not think this one was going to sell at auction at all, but it did. Thank you so much for your time and your effort. And then I got him an Amazon gift card, and I sent him an Amazon gift card just as a thank you. It's not a big thing, and it wasn't a whole lot of money on that gift card, but it's something, and he knows that I appreciate it, and we'll be able to keep working together.
You got to keep the good realtors for multiple reasons, right? For future properties and future deals, especially in Texas, right? If they get a seller finance deal and they throw it your way, that's like gold.
Yeah.
So yeah, Texas is a hard state because a lot of people want it. The pricing is always really crazy. So did you get decent pricing on when you bought it?
We did. This back in 2016.
Okay.
I got the numbers here. I bought it for, oh man, I got a good deal. I paid $17,000 for it.
Okay.
We had at the time we had a CMV of 50. It sold at auction, and this has happened a couple of times now to this realtor. Sold at auction. Where's my number? Shoot, I don't have it here. I have the profit number, so we can kind of extrapolate. But anyway, my overall profit, net profit, was $13,000 on a $17,000 purchase. So the total ROI was like 68%. So pretty good.
Cool.
It's very, a happy ending for that one. That's where I met that realtor, and then that's the guy I continue to work with today in San Antonio.
Gotcha.
So it's just been a win-win kind of a relationship, and it was a good note.
One of my favorite deals was a deal that I felt confident about, and I learned a lot about the borrower, and it was just outside Columbus, Ohio. It wasn't a deal it was a good return. Wasn't the high returns we've had before, but it was a really good return. And I liked it because it was a condo. It was in a condoplex, and the values were, when you're in a condo situation, you have really good strength of values. Mm-hmm. So when we're in that spot, the values to me, even if they fluctuate a little bit, it was based because of the unit being different from another unit. And it was really good for that. So if you see a condo, it's usually often good buying because you can really comp it well.
Yeah. Plus,
it was next to one of the first attorneys I worked with, who I love still today. And he actually moved on and his junior partner actually took over most of the files, right inside Columbus, Ohio. And we had an agent that was a good agent over there as well, that both of us work with.
Mhm.
And the combination of those three made this deal stick out to me, right? I had an agent who could work with investors, who can do any kind of rekeys and trash outs we needed. I had solid comps, and I had an attorney that said, listen, yeah, it's Ohio, but we'll get through it. I knew the borrower was a landlord,
Okay.
which made me even feel a little more stronger. Because when I found out that it was habitable, there was someone living in it, told me the fact that it was probably knowing the fact of the landlord situation told me something else, right? The reason I knew it was landlord's tax records being sent somewhere else, but the fact the property was there.
Okay.
We did some quick research, and the person, the owner, was younger. So it wasn't like an older person with a younger child,
Right.
and they're in their 40s. That deal was attracting me for those reasons, having the people in place.
Mhm.
I knew the fact that even if the numbers got tight, I had the people in place to kind of help me out and make sure the deal was solid. I think
Right.
for a lot of people, reaching out and meet new people is difficult. Start with the attorney, right? Get on a phone call. We don't work with a ton of attorneys, right? You may
Right.
work with 2 or 3 a state. Get on the phone, feel the ones that are most comfortable with, right? Erin Quinn is one that comes out that a lot of people talk about. Great person, great work with her. She gets behind some things, but that at the end of the day, she has your back. And things like that. So if you want to reach out to that, I know Mike Mazak is on the group too. If I need to have a deal in his area and that's a strength, I'm going to use that. And then if you have a situation where you can reach out and talk to another investor or a rehabber, or if you know somebody local, focus on those areas if you can, right?
Yeah.
Then maybe your backyard. It may not be. Just like me and Nathan, we ain't buying our backyard. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
So it makes you feel most comfortable going outside your boundaries. So having those teams together provides you the opportunity to have the best opportunity for success.
Right.
Even if the numbers are great, doesn't always mean success. We've got an idea where I bought it for 50 grand, probably worth $150, and the unpaid balance like 90. Way underwater. I was so solid on things. It turned to be one of our worst deals.
Mhm.
It just, there was so many problems, delays, issues, that the numbers weren't good. And the reason was I was in an area that didn't have an agent.
Mhm.
It was in just a really weird part of Ohio. And I went for it for the numbers, understandably, but I didn't have the team. And
Right.
that's what differentiates things a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, don't burn bridges, as Anthony mentioned in the chat box, and connect with people, right? Connect with investors. So is there another deal that was there a seller, right? Or I have one in my mind that the seller was the reason I bought it, or an opportunity that was around it that made it attractive to you besides the numbers.
Actually, here's a good one. This is a good example of one that I wanted to share. Is so this deal actually was brought to me by one of our friends, Liz, and she said, "Hey, I've got this new seller that I'm working with. I think it was her and Kimberly and I all put in bids together, just so that we could have a larger bid
Yep.
collectively, so we could get better pricing." And so that was the first thing. So first of all, it comes from Liz, and I trust Liz, and I like her a lot, and so she's
Shout out to Liz.
fantastic. And second of all, when I was going through the tape, I noticed something, and watch for stuff on the tape, because you can learn all kinds of things. What I saw on this one, this was a contract for deed in Indiana, and I think it was like, I don't remember what month it was, but the tape itself was 2 or 3 months old. And I knew that because you don't get this all the time, but on this particular tape, it had data date or whatever, or
Yeah, the date of
pulled it.
Yep.
And it was like 2 or 3 months old. And I noticed that it was a couple months old, and then I saw that this one loan, it looked pretty solid. It looked like it had been paying pretty solid. There was a pay history on there, but because the data was a couple of months old. They were
Hmm.
listing it as a non-performing note. And I went,
Because it's just the data, just a quick formula.
yep. And I looked at that and I said, I have a very strong suspicion that it is not non-performing. It's actually been performing this whole time, and they just haven't updated it.
Wow.
So I did. So I put in my bid. Here's the numbers on this. So unpaid balance was 76,000. CMV of 75. So there's really no equity at all. A little bit underwater, just barely. It was at an 8% interest rate. You know, the kind of things that I like to see when I'm looking at loans, a higher interest rate. Picked it up for 35.5, which was good. That was a good price, and that was partially because we did it as a group bid. I sure enough, I contacted the borrower and found out yes, they had been paying. So I got the updated pay history from the servicer, and yeah, they'd been paying the whole time. So there was no break there at all. So I think I actually sold this one back out to, I think it was to First National.
Okay.
Turned it right back around out to those guys as soon as I could, and we completed a deal. They bought it from me for 56.4.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I mean, I hardly had any expenses on this. Some due diligence, and that was it. And my turnaround time on this was 4 months. So was able to turn it around for really nice return on that in just a few months, just because I was paying attention and I saw that the data was old and had the suspicion that it was performing, and I was right. And I still would have been just fine if it wasn't. The numbers were still good if I had to foreclose and if I had to take the property back. But this way it was just, I had $263 in expenses, and that's it.
Wow.
So that one worked out really
So,
well. That was a favorite.
Note, guys, so what happens is, so those who are maybe not, ultra familiar with this, is when they put a data tape together, they give a cutoff date, right? And they say, this is the cutoff date of all the data. Anything newer is not going to be on here, anything older. Well, sometimes it gets to a broker a little late, or the data got through and they got distracted, and eventually gets to the broker and it gets sent out to all of us.
Mhm.
So that data may be old. And if you go through the tape and you see multiple assets on the tape that has the next due date being 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and there is nothing current, and you look at the pay history, if it has it, and you see a line of pay history looking good, be a little suspicious that that may be performing, right? And in my formulas, I calculate it's non-performing because it's 3 months old.
Right.
So just be mindful of that kind of stuff. It could be a nice little caveat to those looking at stuff. Look at that the last date of all the assets and see where it is, because not every tape we get has a cutoff date. But look at the next due date on all of them and see if there's anything past it. You can always ask the seller, hey, listen, is this what the last pay history on this one is?
Right.
They're not going to pay attention.
And I don't, a lot of the time that doesn't happen very often, but if I see something like that, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to ask any questions.
Good, well said. Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't want to raise anything where they go, oh, wait a second. No. That's old. Let me get you the new data. No. I'm good. I'll stick with what you sent me. Thanks.
So, it's weird because I'm not going to mention last names here, but we both know Chris, one of the sellers we really like working with.
Yeah.
We bought a few assets from Kim, and I bought a few assets that were a little bit below where my bid number, just because I trusted him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Going through that seller has never been a problem, where there's other sellers where even the numbers look good, I sometimes veer away from them.
Yeah.
But Chris has been such a good person to us, fair, honest, upfront, patient. The deal where we're dealing with IRA, and my IRA was caused all kind of hell, and he was able to come through and kind of, hey, listen, I get it. Just keep me abreast what happened. So
yeah,
sometimes a seller makes or breaks a deal.
Yeah.
Sometimes deals just look good, but you question what else are they hiding.
Yeah.
They're still out there. We kind of veer away from for those reasons. So for me, sometimes the seller is the key reason why I'm going to look at something deeper. And there's other tapes we both get that we kind of ignore nowadays, right? Because it's out there, everyone has, the seller doesn't know what they're doing, the paper's kind of crazy, or we know the fact that the pricing is high on that seller.
Yeah, or it's a brand new seller or somebody that wants to broker the tape.
Yep.
I don't necessarily have a problem with brokers, but you've got to, if you're going to broker something, you've got to be able to back it up 100%. If
Yeah.
this is a daisy chain, then
yeah,
I'm really sorry. It's just I want to make sure that I get the collateral in the
yeah.
end. And if
So
you're going through a guy, then no.
So, and I know I've repeated this before, so I apologize for those who listen to it. Brokers don't often know they're actually brokering or in a daisy chain.
Right.
They hear seller's rep, they hear direct to seller, they hear I'm the seller. More likely, they're not the seller. Most sellers don't chain their stuff out. It just doesn't work that way. There are some that do. So whenever you get a tape and you're for either direct to seller or seller's rep, you got to ask them questions, guys. Ask questions like, who's the servicer on this thing? Where the collateral file is? And things like that to kind of find out. If they don't know and they don't go work to find out, most of there's a problem. So what other questions, do you have any other questions you typically ask to kind of narrow down brokers?
No, asking about the collateral file is a big one. And the servicing file as well. And that's something I have done more recently. I've got actually a guy that was referred to me from Tracy Rui. And he's bringing me seller finance deals.
Cool.
And so again, in that sense, it's kind of, basically he's acting as a broker. And again, like I say, I don't necessarily have a problem with brokers. He's newer, and again, that's fine, but I need to make sure that everything is in place. So he brought me a deal last week. It's in Pennsylvania, which again is a state that I typically steer away from. Numbers are good. House looks good. Everything looks good. So I had him send me all the information. Like I said, I can be talked into something if everything looks right. But he brought me all the information. I was reviewing it. Everything looks great, except the one thing that's missing is the note, which is kind of important. And in Pennsylvania, it's actually critical.
Yes,
we have
absolutely.
to have at least a copy of the note along with the lost noted affidavit. And that we're not sure if that's going to be available or not. So if we can find it, great. We'll go ahead with this deal and it'll be great. If not, unfortunately, it's a dead deal.
So brokers, if you get a tape of assets, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, the first thing you got to make sure, if they sent you a tape without NDA, red flag should go up.
Yeah.
If I'm sending a tape to Nathan, I'm not NDAing him because it's no sense. We know each other, relationships there. But if someone's sharing a tape with you that's not NDA, question that first off. It doesn't work. Another way you can figure it out is proof of funds, POI, POFs kind of stuff. Most sellers don't care about proof of funds. You don't perform, you're blacklisted, you're off the table. So just be careful of that kind of stuff. So we bought from brokers. You know, there are some really good brokers out there, and it's brokers who have great connections. We have a broker that actually works a deal out and sends us the details of the deal. And if we buy it, we're going to pay $3,000-$4,000 for a broker fee. No problem with that. They did all the work for us.
Yeah.
We have brokers who just have direct sources of assets that, you know, we may not have the connection to for whatever reason. Seller finance world is a completely different world than our financial institutional one.
Yeah.
Where seller finances, they may actually be doing their own skip tracing and data scraping and things like that, which is interesting. We're looking at getting into more into that. But yeah, if you're brokering or trying to get into the brokering space, not understanding the note space, you got to learn the basics. If I go to you and ask you, is it a mortgage or a contract deed, and you don't know, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to bid differently.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't know who the servicer is, how do I know that you are direct to seller? And why is direct to seller important? You don't know how many other brokers are between you and the seller. That tape may be 3 years old, and
Right.
someone just put it out there, just hoping to get a connection and trying to build a Rolodex up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool. So we actually had a good question the other day from an investor that we had a call with. and I wanted to go over with you and see your point of view. They want to learn about how to present an offer to sellers. They got to the point where they felt they can evaluate an asset. They feel they can come up with a good bid,
Okay.
but they wanted to present the offer in a presentable way, in really good indicative offer. They're asking, do you put a letter together? Do how do you look professional? Before I put my thoughts, what are your thoughts on that? Should you put a formalized letter together? Where does professionalism appear in your eyes?
Uh, it's a good question. I think part of the thing to remember is that it's very much a relationship business.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily trying to impress with your materials. You should be trying to impress with the relationship, and specifically about your willingness and ability to perform. If you put in a bid and it gets down the road and you're a day or two away from funding and then you pull out, that speaks way more than a fancy approach to putting in your bid. So that's the main thing I think to remember. I put in bids all the time where it's just 1 or 2 lines in an email. That's incredibly common. That's not a big deal. In fact, I think really the only time that I would put it onto a spreadsheet is if I've got, say, more than 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Just because it's more organized and easier to read. But if I'm bidding on 1 or 2 loans, no, that's just an email. The only tip I would put in there is this is something I learned way back when, just kind of the psychology of negotiating is when you're talking about putting in your bid, instead of saying my bid is 50,000, instead of just writing 50 in the letter K, I'll actually type out the whole thing. So I'll put a $, 50, 000.00 and make it look as big as possible. And does it make a difference? I don't know, but that's something I learned a long time ago, and it just kind of stuck.
And this person's coming from the real estate world, right? Where they have to make a nice presentation to the sellers a lot of time. Even homeowners are getting letters from, oh, can't wait to raise my kid here. Our sellers in our world, outside the seller finance world, don't care. They're not looking to negotiate with you and say, hey, listen, let's get on a phone call and talk. Now, seller finance is a little different, right? You can kind of gab with them and explain things with them. But when you're buying institutional loans, you're not going to get on a phone call and shoot the breeze with them. I share with her my thoughts. The professionalism is really on the bid being where it's at.
Right.
Now, if you make an offer on an asset, it could be both ways. Way too high. You're bidding on a 3% coupon rate at 95% of the loan. They're going to laugh at you the whole way home and know the fact you're not professional and sell you the loan laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Versus you're buying an 8% coupon and you're trying to bid 60% of it. They're going to, at the same time, think you're not professional either, because you don't know where you're at. You're throwing numbers out there. So me, the bid actually, and if you can't back up the bid, right? So if I put an offer out there and say, where'd you come across that bid number? Hey, I'll explain my bid. If you don't like it, it's fine. But hey, listen, I bid 68% because X, Y, and Z. Where if you come back to you and say, hey, why'd you bid 65? And you say, well, I did 60% of, or 75%. That doesn't really do anything. So your bid offer is the professional part for me. Is if you present a accurate bid and define it with background and say, listen, this is how I came to it. That to me is the most professional thing. Most of my bids, like you said, are emails.
Yeah.
Here's my offers. Here's a spreadsheet. Here's my offer spreadsheets, or I'll put, if it's a couple of loans, I'll put that into an email as well.
Yeah.
It's not formal.
Right.
The only I'll add in there is my list of what I need. I have, things I need to make sure that I get, such as the collateral file and the servicer notes and something like that. We have a whole list of 13 on our website of things I ask for. Mm-hmm. That to me is not to look professional, but just to get the items I need. So if you say yes to it, I want to make sure you give me the servicing notes and whatnot.
Right.
So,
Right.
so yeah, Anthony just note the fact that yes, he mentioned next time spell it out and put the number in parentheses as well. So,
Sure. Yeah.
hey, whatever way we can get across, that's the bid number.
Yeah.
One of the other ways I've always, read about and that, never split the difference is never come across as an even number,
Yeah, that's a fun
right?
one.
$49,896.23.
Yeah.
It looks calculated.
Right.
It maybe is, but it looks specific, where it's like, listen, this is calculated based on numbers. If you come across with 50,000, it may look like you just spit a number out and you look negotiable.
Right.
Where it become clean and say, this is my number. Whoa, there's some thought into this. So
yeah. So
it's less like
here's another example too, is just going back to the relationship thing. So I mean, there's guys that I buy from all the time on a really regular basis. So much so, this happened just this last week, where I got a tape from a seller who most of those loans that they sent aren't going to be sent out to the public for another 2 weeks. So I kind of got first look at what was available. So I put in my bids. I was hoping to get more of them, but I ended up with just 2. The price that we settled on, I know, and they know too, that if they put it out to the public in 2 weeks, they'll get more for it. But we've got a good working relationship. They know that I'm for real, and that I said, I'll give you this much, and I can close next week. And they know that that's accurate because that's what we've done in the past. So, they said, okay, so based on that, if you can close next week, then yes, we'll give you that price. We know that we can sell it for more in 2 more weeks when we send it out to the public. And I said, yeah, I know.
But the thing is, they risk that too, right? They may be able to get an offer that's higher than yours, but they don't close, or the problem or concern or issue.
Yeah.
Where, hey, listen, this guy's gonna close, right? We've gotten offers of assets where the sellers, listen, just give me your best number. We know you're closed. Just give me your best and highest. I don't want to negotiate. Just give me your number that works.
Yeah.
Boom, here it is. Great, close on it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
Yeah, and building that reputation for yourself is really, really important, and just making sure that everybody knows.
And if you're not going to close, just be open and communicate. Hey, listen, that's what's going on.
Yeah, be honest about that as well. Like you say, an IRA snafu. Or, you know what? Funding is going to be delayed by 2 weeks. We've got the IRA that we're working with. This is the company. We're having to comply this way and that. It's for sure it's coming. We just have to go through this, and it's going to be another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Most of the time, that's going to be like, oh, okay, no problem.
Yeah. If there's any other questions, let's just type up too. If there's any questions, guys, feel free to jump in here. I wanted to kind of break it down because that was the question she had, where she got stuck on the fact that how do I present I'll be a fool? And weirdly enough, it's not as clean cut as typical real estate, right? Real estate use of contracts and formalized stuff, and it's an email. It's crazy, but it's an email.
Right. But yeah, it's not like real estate where you're sending in your picture with a letter about yourself and this is why you should talk to me and all that.
Yeah. And not even reasons sometimes, right? Sometimes you send in an offer and say, listen, here's all the rehab costs to go along with it. A justification. It's like, listen, here's my numbers.
Yeah.
And you have the next step, right? So those who haven't bid on an asset, understanding your indicative offer, you're still subject to a BPO, collateral review, and hopefully no sellers listening. You have plenty of reasons to get out of deals too. There are so many ways to get out of situations, legitimate reasons, right? You bid on an asset, they say it's worth 50, you think it's worth 50, you come back at for 20. Right. Or the house is missing.
Yeah.
They don't listen, the value is not there. Now if the house is worth 45, you bid 50, you better be coming down your number a little bit. Don't be just trashing the deal, right?
Right.
If the property worth higher, you shut your mouth and you buy the deal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But if the collateral file is missing something, right? That's a key, right? If there's title issues or the O&E come back with taxes, there's always usually something in there that you they can get you out of a deal as long as your numbers are right the first time. If the deal ends up being what you thought it was,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be backing out.
And within reason. And I've had that where, we bid on it and then I get a tax bill for a
Yep.
$2,000 tax bill. Listen, a $2,000 tax bill is not a reason to back out of a deal. And if you start pulling that kind of thing, that you're going to have a lot of trouble and headaches just getting deals at all. If you're going to
Yeah.
pull out for a
So
relatively
whatever.
small tax bill.
So we also had a situation with a water bill came across, like
Mhm.
$5,000, $6,000, $7,000 water bill.
Yeah.
And what do you do in situations like that, right? You get a water bill that comes to your hands and you're like, holy God. I agree to the situation. It wasn't on the O&E. Get a hold of the county records. You
Mhm.
come back to them. So, what do you, I know I've run that. What have you done in situations like that where you call the county and find it out, O&E didn't have it on there or whatever? How do you present it to the seller?
Most times I just eat it and I just say, you know what, that sucks. It would have been really great if I'd caught that beforehand. Within reason, there have been things where it's come up and something that should have been on the title that wasn't a water bill.
Most times there.
Most time it's there, but it's not terribly uncommon for it not to show up.
Yep.
If the county has or the city has put it as a lien, then for sure it'll be there. If they haven't registered that as a lien, it very well might not. So in most cases, I just eat it. If it's kind of more extreme case and there's something that's actually wrong with it, then I'll go back. I have gone back both to the seller and to the title company. If it's something that should have showed up on title and it's not there, I'll go back to them and say, hey, this should have been there. It was registered lien and you didn't catch it.
I've gone back to the seller and said, listen, guys, this came across, as long as it's not a high percentage of the purchase, right? If it's a
Sure.
$50,000 house and it's 12 grand of water,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back. If
Sure.
there's $1,000, I'm not gonna worry about it too much. I'll eat it. He should have some kind of thing. Gene just mentioned that water bills have been a problem for him lately as well.
Mhm.
And it for whatever reason, right? Vacant homes or whatever. And I think that for me, as long as you catch early enough, it's not a huge percentage. Go back to the seller, explain them. They may or may not know about the problem.
Yeah.
They may be an eye-waking thing for them. But we'll often go back and say, listen, I've split the middle with them. I've done things where I've gotten them to take off the whole thing. Like, listen, this thing's 12
Yeah.
grand. The house wanted 50 grand.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll split it. Somebody just negotiate it. You may
Yeah.
not be able to. You may be. And you may say, listen, this just kills the deal for me, all my numbers.
Yeah. I've had it where they say, okay, listen, unfortunately I can't send you any money, but we can give that to you as a credit on your next one.
Yeah.
And that's not my favorite one. But okay,
Yeah.
but whatever you can negotiate.
Yeah. Gene said that they came up after they bought it. They didn't see it as they looked in the lien situation. They didn't see it. That sucks, right?
That sucks.
And sometimes they don't, I've been weird situations where they actually don't file the lien, which is crazy. The bill accumulates and they just don't file the lien. It's outstanding water bill and should go with the borrower, but another doesn't. So,
County.
yeah. So I think for those out there, we're giving some scary things here.
Sure.
These are not all the deals. Okay.
No.
So hopefully we're not fearing the worst here, but just kind of monitoring and see what's going on. CFDs, and things like note situations. If it's vacant, you have different situations than when it's occupied.
Yeah.
And then with that. So I think, for me, what we're looking to do is put the team around you and to find the deals that you have the most security in, because those are deals, even with the smallest margins, sometimes work. Oh, she said that one of the water bills was 189, which ended up over 900. Gene, how much was the purchase price, if you don't mind sharing? So, getting those kind of people in there, getting a hold of county people. So those who are listening, you can definitely call the county or the lien company and ask what the water bill is, and find out that kind of stuff. Just like taxes, you can find out the tax bill.
Yeah.
And whatnot. Moving forward, do you have certain counties in the country that you identify as being those areas where you're buying more of because of the teams, because of what you've success that may supersede numbers all the time.
Well, let me see here. So actually, I still continue to buy in Texas. I just picked up a few. I got an El Paso, Nash, Temple, Houston, Port Arthur. I like Texas. Like you say, it can be hard to get, but part of why I like Texas is because I've got a good attorney there.
Mhm.
San Antonio, like I mentioned, I've got a great realtor, but if and when they come up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, actually, Houston, I just picked up a really good realtor there too.
Are these performing notes or
Non-performing, yeah.
okay?
Yeah. In fact, that Houston one, looks like we're going to have that for the July auction. That might be my 2-month. Oh, not quite. I bought it in May.
So for
that's
those who
close.
don't know, Nathan's more of he likes to turn things assets over. He doesn't hold
do.
things long term. So
Right.
getting money in, getting money out is one thing he looks for. So which is cool, right? It's a different mentality. We have performers and we love our performers, the way our structure is, and whatnot. So
And that's shifting some for me as I go into the fund. It'll be more
Yeah.
long term, but for now, it's the quick turnaround. How
Yeah.
about you? You got specific areas?
yeah, we we love to buy in Jersey in areas we like, because of where we're at. We have the network, but like you, we most of the time avoid it. We've had our biggest home runs in Jersey just because the seller didn't know any better. Hopefully Paul's not listening. Right. And it was just because it was in a city area, and it was short to foreclosure. But we do avoid PA to the most part. We have loans in PA, but we're not heavily looking at it. But we do look at the Texas and Tennessees and Alabamas and the Floridas and the Carolinas. We'll also look at like Montana and Missouri and Midwest area. We don't buy much in California. I don't buy in Illinois. I definitely don't buy in Cook County. Sorry, Catherine. But for me, I pushed away from Ohio.
Yeah.
Laws, timeline, cost, property taxes, water issues.
Yeah.
Even Indiana, I've kind of pushed away a little bit, not as much as Ohio. But as you and I began, Ohio was majority of tapes.
Oh, yeah.
Columbus was huge. We loved Columbus for a long time.
Mhm.
Those kind of things. It's like Detroit, Michigan, that were more popular. We're pulling out of those. Are you pulling out of areas too?
A little bit. Like you say, Ohio's getting tougher. Yeah, just some of the laws. Cuyahoga County in
Oh
particular
God.
has gotten a lot tougher.
Yeah, Cuyahoga County, Ohio.
Yeah. It's
Long
just
time
been
frames.
difficult. Yeah, long
Yeah.
time frames, and then
For
they've
both
got
foreclosure and the deed.
and there was a new law there. I don't even remember what it was. Was it insurance or no, it was a bond
The
thing.
bond, $10,000 bond. That's been on the books for a long time. So those who don't know, it's been on the books for a long time. They just don't enforce it in most counties. I think Cuyahoga does. If the property is vacant in foreclosure, they require you to put a $10,000 bond up front, and
Yeah.
they draw down from it for property issues, for mow lawn, all that stuff, and they can use the money as they wish
Yeah.
to draw down from.
Cool.
Yeah, if it's
Not cool.
vacant, and boom, and you have to register it. You have to register vacant. You have to keep. No, it's just
So
not.
it's tough. Like you mentioned, Cook is just everything about it. The county itself, just getting any kind of documents processed at all is just a huge headache. Water bills in Cook is just they're ridiculous.
Yep.
Lawyers, I find actually I've got a good attorney there now, but I don't know how much we'll work together now. And then the other thing that's been really, really difficult for me in Cook County is realtors. I have had properties, several over the last few years, and I've never been able to get a good realtor in Cook County. And so if everyone's got one, I've got to two more.
One of our
left over.
mastermind members is actually in Cook County. Those who are
Oh,
not
yeah?
familiar, we have a group that meets weekly and discusses goals and whatnot. And we have a lot of awesome stuff. So if you're interested, get a little website or shoot me an email. But yeah, one of our members is actually she's actually a realtor in Cook County in Chicago.
Okay.
I think she's in the southern side. So,
Okay.
but I'll connect you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's just hard, right? It's Cook County. It's just a long, tedious process. So
It is. It's tough. And then New York, Gene, I'm going to be talking to Gene later about Maryland, or sorry, Maine.
oh yeah,
Maine's got all kinds of funky.
I don't know if they changed
rules.
the foreclosure law. I think they did. I was talking to someone recently, and you had to bring the originator and all the previous note holders in the court in person
Yes,
to foreclose.
that's still the rule. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And including ones that no longer exist. And so how do you do that? I don't know, but
Yeah.
the workaround, there is a workaround, I'll share it, is if you can get back to the originator and just have them assign it directly to you, that's the workaround. It's not
But
great.
if the assignments are on the books, how does that?
It's a corrective assignment,
Oh,
and it will make it so that you are now, it's just a direct line. So
but they have to appear then as well. Still,
the originator and you,
gotcha. You don't have 15 people between.
right? So make
Okay.
things a little easier, but it's
Cool.
still a bit of a headache.
Yeah. Northeast.
Northeast is tough.
Yeah.
Just the rules around foreclosure are long and arduous and difficult.
Yeah. So I know there's a couple conferences coming up. We're gonna tee them up probably soon. In the next few weeks, we're gonna have some additional servicers coming on,
Yeah.
and some new people coming in. If there's a topic you guys want to talk about, feel free to reach out. I'm checking out some of the numbers behind the scenes. We're getting good reviews and people, watching it after our live video, which is awesome. So, well, Nathan, man, I appreciate your Friday afternoon. Hopefully you have a good weekend. We have a 3-day weekend down here.
I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, take off Monday for us. So everyone, Memorial Day weekend, have a good time, but remember what it's for.
Absolutely.
Enjoy it, but stay safe, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next weekend.
Very good. Thank you.